Hello my most amazing artists, and welcome to week 2 of our Model Magic Dragon Eyes. And we're actually going to be creating these into like mini little bowls. So we're going to create the pinch pot bowl today, and we can start creating the lid, which is going to be where our dragon eye is incorporated. Last time we should have made our dragon eye. You only needed one, but I have 2 examples here for you to see. So if you haven't done this already, then you're gonna have to go back and watch our video for week 1 of this. So I'm just gonna set these off to the side because I don't really need them just yet. And since we've already made our eye, it's now time to start working with our Model Magic. I'm just gonna open it up and it comes out like this. It's very squishy and pretty fun to play with. You can make pretty much anything out of this Model Magic. It's like clay, kind of, except for it's a different texture. Like, you can make anything out of clay, just like you can make anything out of Model Magic. The key differences are that clay is a lot more messy, to be honest with you. It's a lot more dusty. And since we're not in the art room this year, we are just going to stick with Model Magic to keep things nice and clean and so we don't make a big old mess. Model Magic is also a lot stretchier than normal clay, and it's a lot squishier. So what I want to do is I just want to go ahead and start kind of warming it up with my hands because it's a little bit stiff right now. And the more that I toss it between my hands and squeeze like this, it's going to warm it up and it's going to be a lot easier to work with. Alright, and once you've warmed it up enough, just a few times, maybe like 10 or 15 times, going back and forth between your hands, we are going to make it into a sphere. So whenever you're sculpting something or you're making something 3-dimensional out of clay or Model Magic like this, spheres really come in handy, and that's just a ball shape. Coils come in handy, which I'll show you later, and slabs are also awesome, which we are also going to make a slab today. So the first thing is to make a sphere, and to do that I'm just taking it in between my palms and rolling it back and forth. It doesn't have to be a perfect sphere, because what I want to do right now is I want to divide this into 3 sections, and the way I'm going to do that is first make a sphere, then I'm going to put it down on my plate and I'm going to start rolling it out into a cylinder. And this is the start of a coil. So a coil is like a long snake form that we can use to make a lot of different things out of. And you'll see we are going to use coils a lot today, just a little bit later. So I made a pretty fat coil here, and I want to section it off into 3 equal pieces, or as equal as I can get it. It doesn't have to be perfect. So with Model Magic, you can actually just tear it apart like this. And I think this one's a little bit bigger than the other one, so I'm just gonna try to make them even. And it's easy to see if they're even by rolling them up into a sphere, so we can compare the sizes. Those look pretty good. Let's see how this one looks. This one's a little bit big, so I'm just gonna take just a little bit off, put it into my smallest one, and see if that helps. That looks pretty good. So now I have 3 almost even spheres. And with Model Magic, you will probably find that it really wants to stick to itself like this. So if you don't want it to be stuck to each other, then don't touch it together, okay? Because we're making something that's functional. We're making a 3-dimensional work of art that is functional. That means that you can use it. We're going to make a bowl, and we are going to make a lid. So whenever these are drying, we don't want the lid to be drying on top of the bowl, because then when it dries, it will be just stuck together and we won't be able to use it. It won't be functional anymore. So if you don't want your pieces to stick together, then don't let them touch. Okay? Alright, the first thing that you want to do after you've sectioned out your Model Magic into 3 almost equal pieces, we are going to color our Model Magic. Now, we need to be really careful whenever we're thinking about what colors we want to make our dragon eye. We need to think about the color of the bowl itself. So one of these spheres is going to be the bowl. One of these spheres is going to be the actual lid, the dragon eye itself, and the other sphere is going to be for any details you want to add to it. And when you're mixing colors, you need to be careful because some colors will turn out to be brown, like purple and yellow. If you try to mix purple and yellow into this sphere of Model Magic, it will turn brown. And that's because on the color wheel, purple and yellow are complements to each other. That means they look really nice together because they contrast each other very well. Purple's dark, yellow is very light, but when you mix them together, it turns into a brown color. Okay, the other complements are blue and orange. So these are complements on the color wheel, but when you mix them together, they make brown. And last but not least, red and green are complements to each other on the color wheel, but of course, when you mix them together, they will make brown. And we already have a brown marker that you can use for your dragon eye, but just really think, do you want your dragon eye to be bright colors, or do you want it to be darker, duller colors? If you want your colors to be more dull and dark, then you're going to add brown and black to it. But if you want your colors to be super bright, then I wouldn't even mess with brown or black. Don't even use them, just stick to these colors. Okay, so I'm going to avoid mixing my complementary colors because I want my dragon eye bowl to be as bright as possible. So I really love this blue eye that I did because it's using cool colors, blues and greens. I think I even added a little bit of purple in there. So for my dragon eye, I am going to choose warm colors. And I might use these later, but for now I want to focus on my 3 warm colors, red, yellow, and orange. You don't have to use warm colors, you don't have to use cool colors, you can get creative. This is just what I want for my dragon eye. So I'm going to take one of these spheres and we're going to color it, and this is going to be the pot. So we're going to do the actual bowl first, and I think I want to do like a red-orange color. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start drawing the marker right onto the Model Magic, and you're going to have to do this in layers because once you do one layer we have to mix it in, and to do that we are just going to start kneading it together in between our fingers, and you'll start to see that red color will start to mix together into our Model Magic. And if you want it darker, then you're just going to have to keep adding more color. You want to add your color gradually. That means you're adding it just a little bit at a time, because you can always add more to make it darker, but if you get it too dark, then there's no way to make it lighter. Okay, so just add a little bit of color at a time until you're happy with it. So I just did red. I want to see what it makes when I put orange in there. So I'm trying to go for a tertiary color, red-orange. Let's see what that does. It made like a peachy kind of color, but I still want it to be a little bit darker. So I'm gonna add some more red and some more orange. And I don't know if you can see that. Actually, I think you can. You can see like the marbling of the color. I think that's a really cool thing that Model Magic can do. So if you want to marble your colors like that, that just means you're not mixing it in 100%. Then you can definitely do that, and it'll give a really cool texture and effect to your bowl. Alright, I think I'm pretty happy with that color. It's like a peachy pink color, which I really like. Once you're done coloring this, we are going to turn it into a pinch pot, and let me show you how to do a pinch pot. So as you can see, I'm just taking it in between my hands and making a sphere like we talked about earlier. So we're going to make a sphere first, and then you're going to take your finger and just poke a hole in it. Not all the way though, because we don't want a hole in our bowl. And this is going to be the start of your pinch pot. So with my fingers, my pointer finger and my thumb, I am just going to start pinching out the sides, and my other hand is holding it and rotating it around so that my edges of my pinch pot are nice and even. If you keep pinching in the same area for too long, then over here it might be really thin and skinny, and over here it might be too fat, but we want them to be as even as possible. And to make it a little deeper, I'm just pressing my finger down a little bit more, and I'm going to keep going all the way around until I'm happy with it. And this is a bowl, so we want it to be able to stand up straight, and right now, as you can see, it wants to fall over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on my plate, and I'm just going to tap it lightly. Once you start working with Model Magic, you'll see that it's very fragile. It wants to fall in on itself sometimes and change its shape, but we'll just keep on working with it. So if you tap down too hard on your pinch pot here, then your whole thing might collapse. So just be careful. And I was just tapping it on my plate because I wanted it to give it a flat bottom, so then it will stand up straight on its own. Okay, and I'm pretty happy with that. Like I said, this is a mini little bowl, so we don't want to make it too big. So I'm happy with that for now. I'm just going to leave that off to the side. Now I'm going to start working on my actual dragon eye. And the next thing we're going to do with this section is we are going to divide it in half. So I just made a sphere. Now I'm going to make a coil. That's like a cylinder shape. And then I'm just going to pinch right in the middle and tear it in half. So now I have two parts. One will be the bottom part of our dragon eye, and the other part will be like the eyelids that sit on top of our eyeball. And just like we made the color for our pinch pot, now we need to color the actual eye. And you can match them if you want them to match, or you can do completely different colors. That is totally up to you. So I think I want my dragon eye to be like a yellow orange this time. So I'll skip the red. I'll just do orange and yellow, and we'll see what that looks like. Alright, so I just colored these two. I want the bottom part of my eye to be a little bit more yellow, and I wanted the top part of my eye to be a little bit more orange. So you can decide how you want it. You can actually color this piece together and then split it in half if you want them to be the same colors. But if you want them to be two different colors, then you're going to have to split them in half first and then color them. Okay, so I think I want my base to be the orange one. And what I'm going to do to make this base is I'm just going to take this ball that I just colored, and I'm going to make a sphere. Once you make your sphere, we are going to start pressing it down with our fingers. Okay. Every now and again I want to pick it up just to make sure it's not sticking to the surface underneath it. And you're going to start molding it into kind of like an eye shape. Okay, so I just squished it down. Now I'm going to start using my fingers to pinch it into an eye shape. Every now and again you're going to want to sit your glass eye on top just to make sure that we are making this big enough. Also, while you're doing this, it's important to not make it too thin. Okay, if it's too thin, then it will probably crack once it dries. So this is a pretty good thickness. We don't want it to be too thick either, because then it might not be big enough. We want to spread it out just enough to where our eye will fit on it, and actually it's almost the size of my palm. It's also a good idea to make sure that the lid is going to fit over top of your pinch pot. But remember, don't actually touch them together, because if they touch, they're going to want to stick together, and then it will be very hard to pull them apart. We might have to start over if these stick together. So I'm just eyeballing, kind of measuring, is this big enough? And it is. Okay, because if it's too small, then it'll just fall into our pinch pot. We want it to be a little bit bigger than the top of our bowl. Alright, so I'm happy with that shape. Now I am going to just place my glass eye in. Oops. Just put it right in the center. As you can see, it doesn't stick, so if you don't get it perfectly in the center, then you can pick it up and place it where you want it. Maybe you want it closer towards the inside of the eye or towards the outside. Maybe you want it to look like it's looking upwards or downwards. That is up to you. I think I just want to put mine right in the center, and I just use my finger to press it down. So it's not completely secure in there yet, and that's what this piece is for. This piece is going to be the eyelids. So once again, I know that when I'm looking at an eye, there's an upper eyelid and there's a bottom eyelid. So for my dragon eye, I need to divide this into two pieces, and to do that I'm making a sphere, rolling out a coil or a cylindrical shape, and I'm going to pinch it in the middle. So then hopefully I get almost equal sections. I always really like to start with a sphere, especially when I'm about to make a coil, and that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to start with a sphere, then I'm going to lay it down, use my hands. I'm not going to press down really hard. And I'm just going to start rolling it out into a coil shape. And we just want this to be long enough to where it's going to fit on the top part of our eye nicely. So I'm just going to have to roll it out a little bit longer because that was kind of short. And I'm just picking it up and measuring, but not touching them together because then they will stick together, and I'm not ready for them to stick just yet. I just want to measure it to make sure that's good enough, and that looks pretty good. And once you have a coil that is long enough to go on the top part of our eye, we're just going to take our finger and flatten that coil out a little bit, because eyelids are pretty flat. They're not rounded like a snake or like a coil. So I'm just tapping it gently. And once I flatten it out a little bit, I'm going to pick it up and place it on top of my eye. And I'm pretty happy with that placement, so I'm just going to start pressing it down. And Model Magic is great because it just wants to stick right to each other. So I'm just going to keep pressing down, and you can make little indentations where that eye is. You can really do whatever you want. You even have a toothpick if you want to add some lines to the top of your eye. We're going to add more details later, so this isn't really necessary, but if you want to go ahead and start planning that part out, then you can. Now I'm just going to do the same exact thing for the bottom eyelid. Start with a sphere, make a coil, and make sure it's long enough to fit around the bottom part of our eye. Alright, once it's long enough, just use your fingers to flatten it out just a little bit. And then I'll line it up with the top eyelid over here, curve it around. Oop. And I have a little bit of extra, but I'm actually going to keep it because dragon eyes have a very interesting shape to them, so you can do this if you want to. After you get the base, which is this part down here, that flat part, you have your top eyelid and your bottom eyelid. You're just going to start forming it how you want to, shaping it in the right shape that you want. And now we can start adding more details, more interesting details that are going to make your dragon eye unique to you. And to do that, I'm going to use my last ball of Model Magic here, and I'm going to color it using whatever colors I want to, and then I'll be right back to show you a few decorating techniques. Alright, so I just divided my last sphere that I had into 3 because I wanted to do 3 different colors, and I wanted to leave these very marbled, so I just didn't mix that color in all the way, and it creates a really cool effect. So I'm just gonna take little pieces at a time to make my details. And a really fun one that you can do is you can actually take 2 of your colors, just little pieces, and roll both of them into a coil, just like this. And these are going to be pretty skinny coils. You still want to make sure that it is going to be long enough for my dragon eye. So every now and again, I'm just going to pick it up, measure to make sure that it's going to fit all the way across. Alright, once you have your 2 coils in the different colors, we're just going to pinch the ends of one but leave the other 2 ends open. I'm going to hold it down, and we're going to start twisting them together. Just like this. And that looks pretty cool. That's going to give a really interesting texture to our dragon eye. And I want this to go on the top eyelid, so I'm just going to place it down, position it how I want it to be, and I'm pretty happy with it like that, and that looks pretty good. So that's one technique that you can do. So just take some coils and twist them together. You can also make some dragon scales by just taking a little bit of one of your colors and squishing it in between your fingers, so it kind of makes a flattened organic shape. and you can start layering those onto your dragon eye to give it some more dimension and make it look even more like a real dragon. Remember, once you stick something on, it's going to be very hard to get it off. So just make sure that is where you want it before you place it down, because if you try to rip it off, all your other details might come off as well. So if you do something that you're not exactly happy with, then you can try to cover it up with a different detail or turn it into something new, whatever you want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and speed this up and finish adding all the details that I want to my dragon eye, and I'll be right back to show you what mine looks like. I'm almost done here, but I just wanted to show you something that I learned while I was decorating my dragon eye, and that is, instead of trying to wrap these around to get our twist like I did up here, you can actually just put those two pieces together and then use your fingers to start twisting both of the pieces like that. And I think that's a lot easier than trying to take each individual one and try to twist it around each other, because they keep wanting to stick. So this is a lot easier way to do it. So just stick them together, and I'm twisting the left side frontwards, and then I'm twisting this side backwards. So then it creates a really pretty twist. And I'm actually making this twist to go around the top of my pinch pot, because I just thought it was a little bit plain. So I want to add a little bit of decoration to that. You're also going to get a toothpick that you can add texture to your dragon eye if you want to. I'm just going to poke some holes in it to make our scales look less smooth, a little bit more rugged and ragged, like an actual dragon. Alright, and that is it for our dragon eye. If you want, instead of coloring your clay with markers, you can actually do this entire thing completely white, and then you can take some watercolors and actually paint your colors on. That's just a little bit more tricky because you have to get all the way into those deep little crevices and stuff, so I just thought it would be a little bit easier for us today to use markers and color the Model Magic as we go. Remember, do not let these dry on top of each other, because it'll want to stick and then we'll mess up our pinch pot and our dragon eye. So they need to dry separately to where they're not touching. Alright, I hope you guys really enjoyed creating your mini dragon eye bowl. I cannot wait to see how yours turn out. I know they're going to be amazing because you guys are amazing. Alright, I'll see you guys next time. Bye guys!